Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Phil. I am the Down Under Maker. How is everybody this morning? I apologize for the slight delay in getting started. My internet service provider decided to do a fiber optic node update thing. So it took a few extra minutes for them to finish their outage window, and I just had to wait. Sorry about that, guys. So I just need to adjust a few things and get everything operational, and we will be good. Hopefully everybody can hear me talking. Can I please get something in chat to say you can hear me? I don't want to be like the last stream where I spent the first 3 minutes talking to myself, so please say something. No F's in chat so far, so I'm hoping that everything is good. Yes, they can hear me. Okay, so who have we got online? We've got Papaway, we've got Mad Dog, we've got GTR, we've got Greenbeard, Raj is here, Brad's here. So it looks like we are on track. Now, I'm just going to quickly update chat and all those sort of things, the stuff that I couldn't do offline. And I will put chat up on the screen. There we go. So, how has everybody been? It's been a little while since I've been able to do a sort of a scheduled stream. We did, you can't hear yourselves, Captain Kirk. Well, I'm winning then, because that was a big problem last stream. Hi, Nick. Just having a look, make sure I not missed anybody coming in. So, GTR Dad's putting FF in chat, so I don't know. Let me get rid of myself off the screen because it freaks me out when I see myself so heavily delayed. Something went wrong. It says to me something went wrong with chat. Bear with me. I'm going to have to bring myself back up again. There we go. Find me. Not that one. No, that's the old one. That's better. Pop out chat. Go to the chat setup. There's something missing. Okay, chat's populating. So we are back on track. So, no music, but I hear you fine. Yeah, the reason for no music is for some reason, some a-hole, despite the fact I was using the YouTube's own inbuilt YouTube music, decided that I was using somebody else's copyrighted music, and they did a DMCA strike on me, and yeah. So at the moment, I'm just leaving all the music off for a while, and we'll get that sorted out at some stage when I've been able to clear all that stuff off my channel. When you don't yet have monetization, you have to do it one copyright strike at a time, which means if you've got 30 songs, you have to wait for the first one to clear before it will let you do the next one and the next one and the next one. It's hard work. So what are we doing today? Hopefully, we're going to get my V0 back online. It did some strange things a few weeks ago, and the microSD card turned out to be dead. The process of getting it back online hasn't been the easiest. I've been onto Mellow's website, and I'll quickly run you through all of what I've done. And went on Mellow's website, downloaded the latest image for the Gemini V2, and they have done some really funky things with their image, including, for no apparent reason, forcing you to do 500 megabit CAN bus. using some really weird backdoor script stuff. Nothing simple and easy like Esoterical's Guide, and you can't use Esoterical's Guide to completely undo it because of the way they've done it. It's hard. Quite why they would want to do that, I have no idea, when they could just link straight to Esoterical's Guide. I've tried contacting them, but I've had no replies. So let's bring the V0 over onto this desk and we'll have a look. Let's go for this view. And let's bring the side camera over and stack it here so you can see a little bit better as well. And I'll move it a little bit further down the bench just to give it a bit more room from that camera over there. So what happened was the SD card corrupted, and that meant that, actually let's take the door off. That meant stripping the whole damn thing down, taking the back panel off, flashing a new image onto it, and then putting it all back into place. Heat sets are here. You didn't see these. These are for something you don't know about and never existed, and don't worry about it. I whizzed this off while I was waiting for the internet to come back on. Yeah, it's something I'm testing. That's why it's also extra cables and stuff. So in the back of here, there's an microSD card plugged into the Gemini V2. Let's show you the Gemini V2 because many of you have probably never seen it. I hope you guys appreciate me taking this back cover off, because I can guarantee when I do, some of the little nuts are going to slide away and never to be seen again, or at least not going to be easy to slide back into place. Now, in my haste to set everything back up, I don't have chat in front of me, so if I'm not replying to you right now, please bear with me. Now, while I'm talking about this, that must be a wrong size screw. Yes, it probably is. While we're doing this, I'll just let you know that the Delta Flyer kit is in transit and is scheduled to arrive middle of next week. So hopefully that means that we'll be able to start the build for that next week. I've got all the printed parts done. That's better. So that's loose. That's not quite loose. That one's off. That one's off. Do I have one of Steve's parts trays around? Probably not. I've been building Lego kits with my 4-year-old, and she loves the parts trays. So here we go, Gemini V2. Think of it like a Big Tree Tech Manta board, but the MCU is actually, sorry, the CPU is actually built into the board. Kind of like the DZ01 we're going to be using next week. A couple of fuses, bed power. You do have the ability to power the drivers individually. So potentially you could run 48 volts on this, although having said that, whether you would or not, I don't know, but it does have a 63 volt cap here for the drivers, which means potentially you could run up to 60 volts. End stops go here. I don't have any end stops other than Z installed. Everything else is pretty much standard V0, and that's a Fly Mellow UTOC, which is basically the Mellow equivalent of a U2C that we're all used to with Big Tree Tech. Now, this has been annoying me, so I'm just going to trim this. Straight in the giant box of rubbish, and I'm going to bring up that chat again. There we go. So now I can see what you guys are saying. There's a printable back panel for the V0 from Brad. There we go. Yeah. The hardware, as Brad has said in his comments, is, can you zoom out the overhead? I will try. Nope, that's not working. Did that come back? Yep. The overhead is as bad as zoomed out as it can be, but I could do that. But now you're going to see my gut. So yeah, it's the best I can do for you, Jeff. Yes, John, there is a V3 of the Mellow, but as far as I know, that only comes with the later Cyborg kits and from specific stockists. Just finished trimming this. There we go. And trim that. Now we can see what we're doing. So from memory, that's the bed thermistor. Bed power goes that way. AB motors are here. There's a couple of HDMI outputs, or is that USB Type-C? No, they're HDMI. Yeah, it's a nice enough board, but the documentation for it is a bit horrible. We've kind of got used to the levels that Big Tree Techs have been supplying, and the only really good documents are on Team Gloomy from memory. Jeff only had half a screen. Okay. A better clack door would fit the back. I kind of like that idea. I have been toying with the idea of doing something a bit more functional with the back. I could very easily print something that combos those two in place and replaces these bits, and then even a door that opens from the top would work. But yeah, haven't got there yet. Maybe that's something to work on. Just working my way down the chat. Need a strut for the lid. I don't really open the lids very often on mine, so that's not been such an issue. Oh, we have a Martin here. I'm just having a look anymore. Discord under general. Okay, I'll look at Discord later. I haven't. Yeah. Peak umbilical from LDO is an easy setup, but I get low power warnings on the Pi. Yeah, I don't like powering Pis over GPIO, so I won't go on my rants. You guys have heard my rants before about powering Pis over GPIO. Should have stopped at Pi 3. I kind of agree, Papaway. You don't need to take the back off all that regularly. The only reason I've got the back off right now is to show you guys what's going on in here. One last thing is that's where the operational microSD card lives, and that's where you put the SD card to do the flashing of the MCU component of the board. So in some ways it's similar to a Manta, in other ways it's not. And these dip switches are there so that you can do things like convert one of the lanes from USB to PCIe and that sort of stuff. In principle, you could add an NVMe drive here if you got a nice short one. I'm not going to spend that sort of money on this. It's not something I intended to do. I got this entire kit for 350 Australian dollars, which is what, roughly 200 US. because the guy bought it, realized he bit off more than he could chew, and he sold it off. He wasn't all that disappointed, and that was the price he was asking. I was happy to pay it. So yeah, it was win for everybody, I think. So that's what we're dealing with. Now, the biggest problem I have with this unit as it is they did some funky stuff in the image, because you have to use that image because you, for Linux I'm talking about, because you need it to be able to talk to all the hardware they've installed on the board. Don't do this at home, kids. I'm a live streamer. The board will power up, and I'll show you in a minute. So let's get set up in the meantime. So one of the key issues with it is that it, for no apparent reason, they've forced CAN bus to be done in their own way that they haven't documented. Hashtag pro streamer, exactly right, GTR Dad. They forced CAN bus to be enabled in a way that we wouldn't do if in everyday situations, like if we normally follow the esoterical guide. Some of it is done the really old school way, and thanks to Miko, who's on my Discord, he remembered some archaic stuff about where to start looking from an old way of doing it, and that helped. And I also had a quick chat with Esoterical on places where he's seen odd things being done, and he pointed me at a file which was calling a script. I'm just screwing these back on quickly so I don't end up breaking the hinges. There we go. Looks like there's a little bit of screenception going on there. Nothing I can do about it. And the one thing that is annoying about the way this board is laid out is PTFE conflicts with the heatsink on the driver. I do plan on getting something to be able to just lift this block up a little bit, which will then allow me to move the PTFE over a bit, and it shouldn't collide anymore. I mean, I could probably shorten it just a little bit, but that's a worry for another day. CAN bus is not fun at all to set up. I don't ever have a problem with it. I know you have, Brad, and as you know, I'm always available to help you out when you're having difficulties. I don't find it stressful or tough. It just works for me, but yeah. Oh, yeah, it's one of those things where some people have issues, some people don't. Yeah, everybody's experiences are different, and I just don't have the downsides. I've never really experienced them, apart from my first setup, where I was going in a bit naive, and it took me a couple of days to get it set up first time around, partly because back then there was no esoterical guide. The V0.2 has a part there that routes the PTFE, not sure if it would fit the V0.1. I'll have a look. This being the Cyborg kit as well, some of their parts aren't exactly the same as the Voron parts because they did it for mass production. This is even their has their parts kit, their printed parts kit. Yeah, the Raspberry Pi clones often suffer strange, weird things. They see what I mean? The PTFE knocks these off. It's not going to be an issue because I don't run my drivers particularly hard. Yeah, running it outside is also another option. There is a chance that this will be the machine I put Index on initially. my V2's got so much time invested into Vivid, I might leave it on there. Can bus timer too close can be an issue with some clones. Yes, and Esoterical has some theories about that. All my testing matches his theory, and it comes down to the fact that there's a Debian kernel that was released. It even had trouble for the Raspberry Pis, but because Raspberry Pi OS is updated so often, it then got fixed. But some builds still use that old version of the kernel, and timing too close is a pain. So besides fixing the software, we also need to take the toolhead off, and we need to fix one of the tiny LEDs. That came off the inside of the toolhead. That was my bad. I set things up badly and didn't get the first layer right. I just like, YOLO, let's just send it. And it caught on the print, and it dragged the LED off the bottom of the front of the toolhead. So let's take this off. Actually, let's power it off first, Phil. And while we're waiting for that, power up the what's holding that in place? Have I got a there's a third screw under the back. I always forget that. And because I'm a numbnut, I use the wrong size screw head. There we go. Now, before I drop them, I'm just going to pop those two screws out. Now, this has been printing for months, quite happily without any interference, even without that LED. But I've just noticed the way that cable has been routed. It's just torn the ends of the wires off. And I think without some major surgery, which I'm not willing to do on stream, I'm not going to be able to do that. That's going to involve pulling the whole tool head apart, and no, I'm not going to do it. So abort on that one. Let's put it all back together, and we'll go back to the software stuff. Yes, I am using Catapult, John Doe. Well, I am on the. Let me rephrase that. I'm using Catapult on the toolhead board. Now, especially for Nick, I did shave last night. I was looking a little bit more like a Clown Hammer or a Steve Builds beard-wise. I'm going to tape that back to the inside panel where that's been living for the last 3 or 4 months. And let's move to the software. Let's put it there because I don't really need that space, and it means you can see this and me and everything else. It's going to take a few moments for it while it boots up. Nothing wrong with a long beard. It was scruffy. My beard doesn't go nice to the point where you can brush it or clean it up or anything like that. It just looks scruffy. And you'll have to excuse me. Here in Perth, it's what? 3:30 in the morning. So the things I do for you guys. My ZZ Top phase now. And we're finally cooling down. The last couple of days has been 40 plus degrees here, and the weather's cooling down to the mid to high 30s. Steve's beard builds printers better than I can. To be fair, his kitty cats can probably build printers better than we can. I saw those bare feet on video. What, these bare feet? Yeah, typically speaking, I don't run around the workshop too often in bare feet, but when it's stinking hot. The other fun that we've got going on here is one of our air conditioning units is it's 13 years old and it's approaching end of life, and some of its sensors are a bit wonky. So that means that every so often it'll shut down at random, and you then have to go and reboot it and wait for it to sort itself up. It's 3 a.m. Give the men a break. Hi, Keela. Hopefully this is up by now, so give me a sec while I load it up. 192. That's it. It seems to be booted up. The other thing I will do is connect to Putty in case we need it. Fly, Mellow. Oh, we are going to need this anyway, because we're going to need to investigate stuff. Oh, it would help if I'm using the right username and password on the right printer. I was trying to log into my Voron. Let's go to here so you can see what I'm doing, and go to that. Okay. Now, you guys aren't going to be able to read this until I make an adjustment. So let's make that adjustment. Change settings. Appearance. Now, I'm going to do this on screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. So it helps you guys. I know many of you guys are old and blind like me. So I right click on the top of the panel. Change settings. That brings up the reconfiguration dialog box. You then click on appearance and change, and I find 16 works quite nicely. Apply, and all of a sudden the font is bigger and it's much easier to deal with. So Fly and Mellow for Mellow boards, or at least this current iteration of Mellow boards, and we are in. So let me give you a guided tour if I can remember where to go. As you can see, I've been doing lots of stuff. Now, at the moment, and I stress at the moment, it's currently showing us a bit rate of 1,000,000. That has taken me time and effort to get it to this point. Like 3 or 4 hours between Miko and myself chatting away on my Discord, and we got there. Is this FlyOS 1.3.5? This is whatever their latest image is. Let me have a look. Also, John Doe. We're having a lively conversation on Penguin's chat Fly tools, watch this. You say that fly tools should be, all their site goes to everywhere. Not found. And if you do a search up here for fly tools, not found. Fly tools, for those who are uninitiated, is a very nice software suite they have built into their web server. I've used it on the previous board setup, but I can't find where it's actually located on the current setup. And it gives you lots and lots of parameters that you can dick with to probably actually fix the problem I've got. But until I can get to fly tools and know where it is, I'm kind of stuck. So that's where we've got to with this. So let's chuck that one back off screen and bring back this. So Fly Gemini, we are on Linux 5.10 Sonics. So it's not even a normal Debian build. It's running a Ambient Bullseye with the Sonics. It's a real hodgepodge of stuff that they've just mashed together to make it all work. If you do the updates, don't. Just don't. It just breaks things. Just don't. So at some stages you get this 1 million. Well, I set this manually to get this 1 million value. But let's go to / etc. and do an ls. And in here, there should be something called rc.local. rc.local is, for those who remember old school DOS, is kind of like the autoexec.bat, where you could throw in scripts at the beginning of a boot up. And it would then run those scripts. There we go. This file here, fly config start, was forcing lots and lots and lots of things to be run in the background that you had no control over. Problem with that is, can you see here it says it's a binary file? It means it's compiled. It means you can fly tools no longer being supported, kind of like the Gemini V2 boards. But the software was there. Why won't they just leave the image up, John Doe? They could just leave the image there, but they've pulled the image down. And Fly Tools is actually on here. I know it's on here because I've seen it in the scripting, but I can't find where it is and how to get to it. But back to this. It's as you can see here, it's a binary file. So it's compiled, which means you can't read it. So you have no idea what's going on in that fly config start other than the symptoms that happen as a result of it. So what I've done is I've actually come in here and I've hashed it out, which means that that file doesn't run. I've left it there so I can come back and investigate at another stage. If they're moving to a standardized clipper, then why don't they just leave it alone and just put clipper on there and not dick with CAN bus? None of their machines come with CAN bus as standard as far as I know. They should be able to leave that to manufacturers. Because this is Mellow's image I'm using. I'm not using a Cyborg image, I'm using Mellow's image. So, yeah, as a result of this file being compiled, you can't read it as human readable. And yeah, it means you can't see what it's doing. So let's back out of that. And at the moment, it's currently running at 1 million, as we saw. So here we go, bitrate 1 million. And it's all communicating with the toolhead. At random, something happens and we get bitrate 500,000. When the software is told to run at bitrate 500,000, but the toolhead board is programmed to be 1 million, it does never actually sync. I was hoping that it would give us the 500,000, to be honest, so that we would have something more to work with and we could do some more troubleshooting, because every time I reboot this thing, up until recently, now it's been reverting back to that 500,000. So maybe the last thing I did has fixed it. But basically what I was having to do was come into run this file, which is run this command, which is taken from Esoterical's site. Let's go on there. Esoterical.online. Getting started. So when I was trying to do all this and get this all fixed up, I came to Esoterical's site completely blind to the fact that they already had this CAN bus configuration going on. I just went through the usual process, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. I've done this dozens of times. I know what I'm looking at. And I got to here, which is that thing you've just seen in my command line. Why is that so wide? Esoterical. I got to here, copied, pasted, ran it, and then I did the confirm. Which is probably that thing we've just been doing, no? It spat this out as this, but then I did this to check everything was running. And let's go through the things that I didn't get. I got a bitrate of 500,000, and I got a queue length, because the queue length is shown here somewhere as well. The queue length was forced to 1024. So I was like, why is the queue length 1024? I've just run the scripts. And why is the bitrate 500,000? I've just run the scripts. Went through it 3 or 4 times. Miko was on my Discord with me, and we just couldn't work it out. So then Miko was like, wait a minute, this kind of looks like some of the settings from way back when, and that's when we started to unravel things and started editing files deep within Linux to try and work it out. So yeah, looks like at this point, half of what I was planning to do today isn't going to be available. I can't solder the LED on without just heavily dismantling the tool head, which I really don't want to do. So let's have a look at Vivid, shall we? Just gently turn this camera around, and it's probably fallen offline. It always does every time I move it. There we go, it's back. So I've been doing many tests, and I've been having more and more luck, but there's still a few niggly little things when I do changes that make life difficult. This is going to be the first time that you've seen a Vivid live as such, because the last time I was working with it, it was basically just showing you guys what was going on, but it wasn't powered up. So how about we start from scratch? Let's now, I can't easily show you this because it doesn't reach, but I can turn the printer a bit and wheel this across a bit. I'm just going to put the V0 on the floor because it's actually making that cable effectively shorter. There we go. The 2.4 looks much cleaner without panels. It does. And it's even cleaner because without the panels, I've been able to actually get in under the bed and scoop out years and years of nasty. So let's tilt this back a little so you can see. Unfortunately, I've got no easy way of showing you all of this all at once. Let's try going there and there. That's going to mean I need to get rid of that for you guys so you can see a bit more of what's going on. And let's see if I can zoom in a bit. No, I can't easily zoom in that way. And I've disabled the AI on this one, so it's not going to zoom. No, it's going to have to do. So it's powered up. Here's the interface. I'll post a screenshot for you guys later. But basically on the side of the clip screen, there's a little extra button that's been added, which got a nice pretty little Vivid logo. You tap that and it gives you access to the current version of Bigtree Tech's interface for the Vivid. 4 spools. You can tell it what each of the 4 spools has got loaded. So at the moment I've got this all set for PLA, but I can just simply go spool 2, tell it vaguely what color, and I can also say it's got ABS in it. Purely cosmetic. It's purely so that when we go into this screen, it gives you an idea of what's going on. There's an emergency stop button, which isn't fully implemented and it doesn't always 100% stop. Not intended to be fully operational yet, but it's part of the interface. It's all there. Hopefully you can see at least some of this. I'm trying to get this to be as close as possible and not fall over. It's right on the limits of the cable length. So what we need to do is we need to unload. And that filament was already unloaded, so it's chucking an error. Yeah, okay, you've realized you're unloaded. Thank you. That would help. There's the rest of the filament. Orange spool, let's return that to the inlet too. It should already be here, so let's select it. So I've just moved the drive to capture that filament. I'm going to go to the inlet. And that's already there because that was ready for loading. I need to trim that off before we go any further. I pushed it in a fraction too far and it's trying to load it. So it's going to realize it's an error in a minute. There we go. That's fine. Come on. While we're waiting for it to catch up, let's go back to lane 3 this time. Now, the way the software is set up, it will try everything 3 times. And then it'll go, that's not quite right. And it'll pause. There we go. So I've now moved over to lane 3. Let's select it. You can see it up here. It just went and selected. Let's move the camera up here so you can see what's going on up here. Now, red lights is just simply, I'm not loaded. There's nothing to worry about. And we're going to return this one to the inlet. It's retracting. And the 4th lane was never loaded in the first place. Now, just for convenience and ease, I'm just going to trim a chamfer onto the end of the burst lane. Now, during my show this thing off stream, I did mention that the way this mechanism works is there's all the gubbins is here, and there's a rotating mechanism, and every 90 degrees, a different filament spool will be captured by the drive, and it will then, that's the operational drive at that stage. Very similar to the Box Turtle team's Happy Turtle Letters Feeder or something, whatever it's called, HTLF. That's how that works. So first thing you do is you insert the filament a little bit so it knows which lane to capture. And it's currently loading that through to the buffer. It takes it to the buffer, there's a sensor, and it goes, okay, it's in the right spot. There we go, it's captured to the buffer. And we're done. Oh, no, it's just shunting it to the right spot. Thinking, doing, and it's ready. Again, I'm going to put a little chamfer on the end of the filament. Insert it just a little bit so it knows to change lanes. That filament's been loaded and unloaded a lot of times, so let's cut that off. Partially insert it to get its trigger. Maybe I didn't cut off enough filament. This filament is very heavily bruised from being loaded and unloaded so many times. There we go. And as I thought it might. The filament is just damaged to the point where it's got tangled in the drive. So it's not the end of the world. As you saw, I could just cut it off and it was freed. There we go. And that's in place. And the reason at the beginning why this wasn't set up was again because the filament needed trimming off because it's a bit bruised at the very end from all my testing. Didn't cut enough off. I'm just trying to be frugal here, guys. I've been burning through lots of filament during my testing. Just letting it time out, and I'll try again. Now, just reminding you guys, this is all still beta software. It's not the software that they're intending to launch with. There we go. And it's loaded. So now if I was to use the touchscreen, I could preload the filament all the way through to the tool head, or I could eject the filament and all that sort of stuff. I could also, using the software, go in here and set up the heater, but I'm not going to. Let's go over to the computer and we'll talk you through a few of the operational functions. (192.228). Screen 3. Okay. And here we are. That's up. That's up. Let's see if we can add the other camera so we can see the other camera too. Now I know chat's not looking very pretty either. Let's see if we can. There we go. That's going to make life easy to see. Is there a release date yet that I know of? No, I'm not privy to that sort of stuff. Verbal Shadow, the the previous image they've taken down. Sorry, with me being over at the printer, I couldn't see your chat. So Verbal Shadow has just asked, did I say there was another OS that supports the MCU in the Gemini? There used to be. I can't find a copy of that image anywhere. And this is me going, don't do this at home, kids. Definitely always back up your microSD card that's got your OS on it, especially if you're using one of these less mainstream boards. Make sure you've got a backup. It was just my silliness. I should have, it's only a 4 gig. I should have just backed it up as a zip file and had it somewhere safe, like on my Google Drive or something. Didn't. And I'm paying the price. So let's go add. Let's go a video capture device. Let's go an existing one. And we're missing the side camera. So hopefully now you can see a lot more. I've already answered Jeff, so that's done. I'm just wondering if I can raise that camera up so you can see the vivid more easily. There we go. That's a little bit zoomed in. It's a bit better than it was previously. You guys seem to have gone quiet in chat. Hopefully you're all still here and haven't run away on me. I'm just getting a whole bunch of notifications to say that a whole bunch of people have joined my Discord. Hi, John Doe. Hi, the GPs. And anybody else who I've missed. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, Kegel's still here, so at least somebody's watching. So what have we got going on? On Clipper, we have Vivid Dryer. Can you see that here in the middle of the screen? Vivid Dryer is the way you can interact with the drying functionality on the Vivid. I'm going to close the lid for a second because not everybody would have seen my other stream. On the front, open for drying, close for sealing up. So you just turn it 90 degrees and it opens the vents in behind here. Turn it back so the dots are pointed top to bottom, and that seals it up to keep the airflow into and out of the unit minimal. All the way around there's a little rubber gasket which helps keep things sealed, and in here there's a magnetic strip and a magnetic strip to help keep that door down. So let's turn on the dryer and we'll watch what happens. It's currently, I'll explain this in a second. Let's just turn this on. 50 degrees, as we can. I've just heard it wind up. I'm going to be honest with you guys. The fan is not as quiet as I would hope it would be, but I know why it's a little louder than what I was expecting. The mechanism that it's using and the process that they're using in order to make it high temperature, they've had to change the fans that we would expect to be used out for something that's all metal. And yeah, as a result, it's just a little bit noisier than we were expecting. You've posted some links in stream chat in your Discord for you to look at later. Thank you, John Doe. I will definitely have a look. If that solves my issues, I will be eternally grateful. So we are looking at the temperature coming up, and we are seeing that it's approaching the 50-degree target. RS Makes, hi Rod, how are you? Now, it's nice to see that I've been able to pick up a lot more viewers from the US than I normally can. And I know this is going to make it easier for Raj to view. And we seem to have most of the usual Aussies. So this time slot seems like it might be working. So let's have a look. We've got to within a little bit of the 50-ish degrees that we were expecting. Now, let's come down a little bit to this bit. The temperature that you're seeing up here is an average of those two sensors. They've got some a method of gathering both the temperatures of both the sensors, because there's a left center and a right center, to get as much information as possible. Digital Dragon, how are you? Please remember, everybody, like and subscribe and all that stuff. I've just realized that in my madness to get everything after the internet outage, I don't have my bot running, so I'll get that bot running now. Oh, it's snowing there. It's completely the opposite here, Rod. It's been 40-odd degrees for the last few days, and some of my Aussie polymer nerds have been reporting 47 degrees for tomorrow where they are. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Good background noise while you're driving. You seem to drive everywhere, Penguin. So back to what we were doing. Vivid Dryer is currently averaging those two temperature probes, Vivid Dryer left and Vivid Dryer right. My understanding is that during once the software is launched, by default, these extra sensors will be hidden away, but accessible. So they won't be there day to day, but you'll be able to turn them on and make them visible. The other thing you can see below is the humidity readouts. The fact that these are as low as they are really does surprise me, to be honest. 47, you'd rather have the snow. Yeah, 47 is, it's pushing my limits. And for those of you who aren't familiar with my time zone, it's currently just after 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to be drinking coffee to stay alive today. So back to what this, we've got 24% humidity and 29% humidity between the two sides of the dryer. The dryer, when empty, is normally within like 1 or 2%. And once it's really up to temperature and it's been running a while, it's within 1 or 2%. I'm putting that down to the sensors that are in use, having a little bit of variance between each sensor. And the other thing that causes it to vary quite wildly is when the fan is running, especially, if you've got cardboard spools or if you've got really damp spools, it can affect what's going on left to right inside the unit. I'm guessing that's one of the things they discovered during their prototype building, that they needed multiple sensors to be able to keep track of what's going on to be able to do this. Now, at this point, because I've been asked this, the software doesn't support tracking humidity for control of the heater. It only runs off temperature. I know things like my Sunlu S4 and some of the other more advanced filament dryers, you can actually set a target humidity. At this point, the software doesn't have that, but time will tell, and hopefully that stuff will mature and they'll be able to implement that. I did have a chat with one of the beta devs following my stream the other day. He watched my stream. He was very intrigued by the fact that you guys had so many questions that you wanted answered. He was able to answer a couple of things for me after watching the stream. They did look at CAN bus for this. They elected not to. If this became some run-out success, they might look at CAN bus. But at this point in time, they know the market's on a knife edge in terms of multi-material. So it comes down to how many units get sold as to whether they would look at that stuff. But in theory and principle, they have some pre-development for the CAN bus stuff. It's not in the current units. Whether the current units are even capable of CAN bus, I don't know. I haven't looked at the electronics that deeply. From what I've seen, I'd suspect not, but it's an MCU board. To swap those few basic things out it's pretty trivial. Perfect right where you are, Penguin Makers, 24C and 52% humidity. To have 52% humidity here would be a miracle. I'm right between the desert and the ocean, so quite often, because of the afternoons, wind blows in off the ocean and we just stay humid. It's interesting how different temperature and humidity are on the two sides. I'm guessing that there's filament roll on the right side where there's more humidity, and yeah, it takes a lot longer for a cold damp cardboard roll to get dry. The cardboard itself is probably where a lot of the moisture is, and it takes time to overcome that thermal mass and get rid of all that. So did I leave that open? No, I didn't. That's going to help get rid of some of the humidity. There we go. My bot's finally kicked in. That's a normal, yeah, those sort of temperatures, 24, 25 is normal UK summer. Certainly where I grew up in a city called Leicester in the middle of the UK. 24, 25 was, everybody would be out in shorts and t-shirt. Not that I'm not anyway, but translation, Phil is hot and moist. Yes, I have to admit it's a little bit sweaty in here. I don't have the air conditioning on at this point because the rest of the house would then get cold. And I have small kids sleeping, and I'd rather they stay sleeping than get out of bed because it's too cold. Scary thing is that is more normal Florida winter. Yes, we're still live, Jake. Yes, you caught it. We've been running for just over an hour. Well, roughly an hour. I had an internet outage, which meant I had to start a couple of minutes late because they were doing some upgrades on my internet node. So where are we at? The Vivid is running and heating up. Let's do a home all and hope it doesn't crash into anything. Yeah, and LED effects is actually running for a change. I had some problems getting LED effects. Mad Dog Jeff deleted a message. I'm guessing Mad Dog Jeff was posting something inappropriate in chat as usual. Chat on screen is stuck. Let's go YT chat, properties. It'll disappear for a second. Are you nuking Jake? Leicester's not far from you, Collie. Yeah, I grew up on the north side. A lot of my family is still there. I was hoping to get back to the UK for the Sanjay Mortimer rep rap next year, but Jake was playing with things he shouldn't have been, and if he does silly stuff, I'll take his ban hammer off him. I think Pocket muted you. Kettering, yes. I remember many, many trips to Kettering and Corby train station because my old man was a train nerd. So we have a home all. You need to do a home before you do anything with the extruder with Vivid because there's lots of scripts that run. So I'm warming up to 235. Why 235? Because it works. Coffee incident, my bad. 235 because it works for both ABS and PLA, and it also works for PETG. And because it's got a Revo ultra high flow, it's nice and fast to get there. And we're up at temperature. Now, Vivid is doing its thing. The humidity is stabilized, temperatures are stabilized, and I'm going to take a guess that that black spool of filament, I've left it out way too long, and as a result, the cardboard is full of moisture. Everybody knows where Leicester is. Well, at least you UK guys do. That's awesome. My old man was a steam train nut, and he dragged us up to the Great Central Railway, just out on the north side of Leicester, a lot for this. He actually was the de facto station master for the preserved Great Central Steam Line for a long time. It was on paper somebody else, but he was the guy pulling the strings for a lot of it. So that's all running. We're up to temperature. Now, let's just quickly remind everybody, T0 is lane 1. T1 is lane 2, T2 is lane 3, T3 is lane 4. Machine nomenclature versus human, yeah. It's one of those things that people will have to get used to. Apparently there is something you can do to make them display differently, but I don't want to stick with it. So I'm just opening the lid so I can get there if I need to. Remembering that, guys, that all this filament is very heavily bruised. So changes may not be as reliable as they should be because it's been loaded and unloaded so often from my testing. Has chat frozen again? Looks like chat is freezing up for some reason. This happened to somebody the other day too. Can you see, guys? So chat is still scrolling on the screen. Still working here. On-screen chat is not updating again. Let's break it. Let's unbreak it. And if it's going to be annoying, it seems to be stuck with some sort of scrolling. Not scrolling, but you can hear me. Yeah. I'll do my best to try and read out what's going on in chat, and we can go from there. Mobile chat, yeah. So what I do is I extract the chat from the YouTube stream and project it into OBS. And for some reason, at this point in time, it's not updating up there. I also have that same chat open on a different screen, so I can keep up. Did you see the video with Hector from Fabrico with trying Vegemite? Yes, I did. And why? Just why? Why would you torture yourself with that crap? So let us do, I'm going to do T0 just for funsies. And then I'm going to whiz over to the printer and I'm just going to keep an eye on it. So tool head's just done its thing. It's moved into the, for lack of a better way of putting it, the parts location. Filament is here. It's inserted. Will it do a capture is the question, because that's the part I've been having a little bit of difficulty with. It's detecting if the filament has been captured. So the spool is currently advancing slightly and yes, the filament has captured and it's done a little bit of a purge. You guys may or may not be able to see that just below the tool head. I've got the purge set extra long at this point just to make sure that the capture is as reliable as I can. Quick nozzle scrub, and it returns to its home location. I'm going to do something just to give you guys a little bit of a better view. I am going to go up, 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 so it's not obscured by the bed as much. And for giggles, let's try for lane 3. Helps if I click this screen and not the OBS screen. So it's cut the filament off, it's retracting. Filament's clear of the tool head. It's realized it's clear of the tool head and it goes into high-speed retract. It's into the buffer, sensed by the buffer is retracted. It's changing lanes now on the mechanism. And black is advancing. Into the tool head, the sensor, I can hear it click. It's advancing. I think this one's not going to capture. It's advancing, stalled. I'm wondering if this is the a part of the bruised filaments just causing me grief. This is the third time it should abort this time. Yep, and it's aborted. So let us go into the Vivid control, go to lane 3, and tell it to return the filament to the inlet. So it's currently retracting all. Yep, we've got bruised filament. There we go. So very gentle inserts. And I didn't bend it over enough. Now, for those of you who didn't watch my stream that I did where I did a basic unveiling and unboxing, the way the mechanism works, in order to be able to get to the filament easily, it's not as tightly, the filament path isn't as tightly controlled as it is on things like the box turtle. What that means is if something's not quite right, it will often spit the filament out through a little gap in here, which makes it easier to remove. And it's done it again to me. I know exactly why it's doing it. It's because this filament is so close to the end of the spool. Let's get rid of this one. And it'll error in a moment when it realizes it's got no filament. What have I got that's open? Let's go back to chat while it's doing its timeout. Pretty much, Nick. Nick's just said Phil is giving the extreme down under make a wet, extra brittle filament torture test. Wouldn't you rather that I give it the hardest time possible to make sure I'm not just giving it favorable testing? Spool type within reason is irrelevant. Extra narrow ones, I have tried them. They do work. The time where it becomes annoying and hard work is if you've got really, really crap filament or really, really tightly wound filament. So if the filament is wound crazy tight on the spool or it's getting to the very end of the spool, loading can become a hassle, as you've started to see. Unfortunately, the only spool I've got open right now is this other blue. And it's done it to me again, even with this new spool. I'm having one of those mornings. I'm just going to let it time out and then we'll go for a different channel. It's 4:30 in the morning my time, so I have a little bit of a lack of patience sometimes. Is that a type? Oh no, charge failed. Charge being charging into the tool head. So think of it like similar to ramming. Basically, it's that part where it's pushing it extra hard to make sure it engages with the teeth in the extruder. So let's go for something different and go for tool 3. It's much harder to see the filament with this color. I can't see it in the PTFE. This one's captured fine. I think it's just that the black filament was knackered. Oh, it hasn't captured. It's not happy. There could be filament stuck. I'm just putting my finger on the buffer because I can use that to gauge what's going on the inside. And it's done its change. So there you go. There's a swap. And let's go back to T0 and push our luck really far. cut the filament off, retract, mechanisms rotated over to lane 0. Oh, sorry, lane 1 T0. I can hear the filament sensors just clicked. I can see the filaments advancing. It's doing its check to make sure that these extruders are captured. And we should get a purge any moment. Yes, we're getting purged by the looks of it. Yep. Spooled up the part cooling fan. Nozzle white. And it's working. So I think we've proven that the dryer works. So let's set that to 0 because it's loud. And I've shown you a swap. Close the lid, keep some of the noise in and stuff. Back to chat. Ah, you got it, so that you understood what I would meant. Also, if you have a tool head at the front while loading the curve of the PTFE tubing might be better. Just my thoughts. It's one of those double-edged swords things, Holly. I try to keep it all parked at the back for 2 reasons. One, worst possible scenario in terms of the PTFE geometry. And 2, that means it's all in one location for cut, purge, and load, which shortens the swap over time. I'm trying to give it the hardest time possible so that people can have confidence that when it's in a more optimized spot like you're suggesting, that it's going to be even less likely to cause them grief. So most of the problems I'm having right here, right now, are down to the fact that this filament that I'm using is basically the dregs at the end of some old rolls, rather than the system itself. Yes, that loading thing where sometimes it spits the filament out through the mechanism is annoying, but that's largely down to me. I should be up on a ladder doing it properly kind of stuff rather than all the way on the floor. My bench is a lot higher than many people's. My bench is like almost 1200 tall. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm not testing it in ideal situations, because testing it in ideal situations isn't going to be actually putting it through its paces. It should be able to cope with this stuff. As you can see with the lid closed, it's holding the temperature pretty well. I'm going to bring the nozzle back down to normal temperature so it doesn't dribble. I'm not going to do a test print right now because that would involve loading a whole bunch of new filament, and at this time in the morning I'm expecting my kids to be waking up any time, even though it's only 4:30. So I might have to bail quickly if one of them does. So if you see a little head run past the bottom of the screen and the door fly open, it's one of my kids arriving. I'm just going to see if I can fix this YouTube chat on the screen one more time. So the way the YouTube chat is handled on this system is it's a script that Steve Builds very kindly sent me that reads the content as if it's reading a web page, and then it applies some filters to it and spits it up onto the screen. It kind of pretends to be a web browser. Go through this. Got the blue arrow. Yeah, it's like it doesn't know that it needs to scroll, isn't it? What I tried doing was giving it an entirely different URL. It could also be that YouTube's changed something, and as a result of changing that something, the script no longer works reliably. You know what we could do? We could do this. And then we turn that off. And that's a bit too small, isn't it? Ah, it's because it's a 4K screen. Nothing I can do about that. Unless... No, you can't zoom on that. Doesn't let me. Sorry guys, I know I'm playing around. See if we can fix it just a little bit. There, it sort of works. Not the ideal way to do it, but I've got John Doe saying nope. Nope, and scrolling down. Zoom and enhance. Thanks, Bearded Jake. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't hit the blue arrow collie because it's not in a web browser. It's that being re-rendered thing. So yeah, you have no ability to click that blue arrow. Okay, so what you're looking at in terms of chat now is me having just dragged a web browser screen into this screen capture. So exclamation fart to test. Okay, guys. So this was the screen of semi-fails, but hopefully next stream won't be. Why? Let's go to the overhead cam. You're going to lose chat, but stuff happens. There's me. Scroll up a bit. You don't want to see my moves. I have been printing many pieces for the Delta Fly build. So we've got some Polymaker ASA Galaxy in red. Do they call this one the dark blue? I can't remember. It's the Polymaker. No, it's just Galaxy Blue ASA. And this one is some Prusa filament, which is their equivalent to Galaxy. So yeah, I've tried to capture all the small bits in here. Now, the reason I put the chat onto screen green bid is some people watch it on things like TVs or like to watch playback. So having the chat on the screen so that they can keep in touch with what's going on from you guys makes life easier. I went the extra mile and I did a multi-layer change color door handle. The things I do for you guys. This was all printed on the Core one, by the way. I had some trouble with it just before Christmas where I had a chip out of the nozzle and it was causing it to print really badly. But once I realized it was a chip in the end of the nozzle, I was able to fix that really easily with some with a new nozzle. Speaking of, seeing as we're all here and we have a few more minutes to kill before the end of stream, these came in the mail, purchased by myself, no sponsorship, unfortunately. These are the Fatus hardened neck extruder nozzles. That's a 0.4, and I think this one's also a 0.4. Yeah, it looks like it's another 0.4. To make sure that we don't dox yourself, Phil. Make sure that I've got plenty of spares in case anything like that happens again. And as we inch towards a mercury conversion for the Ender 5, I got some rails in. Allegedly, and I stress allegedly, these are genuine grease ports on these rails. So hopefully that means we can give that a shot, and we can do the grease injection through the ends rather than having to do the remove it method. But we'll see. That's something we can experiment with when we do that on stream, which will probably be 3 or 4 weeks away when we get to this. Once we finish the Delta Flyer. Still using a 0.4 nozzle with those filaments. Jake, all of the people who say to use a 0.6 nozzle with filled filaments are forgetting the fact that there's a difference in geometry between the CHT style nozzles and other style nozzles. And I know Steve Builds is in the same boat as me. I've never had one of these normal straight through nozzles clog up with filled filaments. It's when you start going to those CHT geometries where it's a lot tighter on the inside that you start getting the clogging. So I've never suffered that. I know Steve hasn't had any issues either. So that I'm at this point in time, I'm going to keep with it. I do have a 0.6 on hand if I start getting issues. My phone rang and I missed stuff. Did you answer any advantages besides the dryer in the Vivid? Any advantages compared to the competition? It's just part of the competition. Does it have anything that it does that's super special and neat? It's having the dryer on board. So the fact that it's a more compact unit, and I'm certainly finding it easier to get the filament out if I do have an issue with the filament, has been a win compared to Box Turtle, where you have to take it off, dismantle it, and get into it. Back to the nozzle stuff, we've got Jake saying, that makes more sense. And Nick saying, yeah, I know Zombies suggests not using CHT and using 0.4. If still having problems, raise the print temperature slightly. Yeah, it's one of those things where you can only comment as you find. You guys, I'm sure by now, are all starting to understand that I speak as I find. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. You saw me warts and all showing you that if you've got shit filament spools, you're probably going to have a hard time loading the Vivid. I showed you warts and all. I didn't hide that. I'm not going to hide that stuff from you guys. Big Tree Tech understand that I'm going to be showing you guys what I experience. That's part and parcel of them having released the NDA. So yeah, that's where we're at. What else has come in the mail recently? Oh, I think I showed you, I got a whole bunch of new socks for the Core One, just in case I have an issue. The socks do degrade over time and go a bit brittle, so I ordered a 5-pack of the socks off AliExpress. Cost me like $3 or $4. I would love to have bought the genuine ones, but when you can buy 5 for $2 or $3 or 1 for $7 plus shipping, yeah, certainly in my part of the world, it doesn't make sense to buy the genuine ones, unfortunately. Throw all those dregs of filament in the bin before they start making a mess. The other thing I'm having trouble with on my Voron at the moment is I currently have to have it plugged in via a LAN cable because the Wi-Fi on it's all screwy. It's not the normal network manager bug. It's just that the Wi-Fi on it's a bit weak. So I'm thinking I might need to get, because it's running a CM5, I might need to get the external antenna and plug that into the back of the CM5 just to solve that. Brad's still on the Revo bandwagon, and as you've seen, Brad, I largely am for my rest of my printers. All of both the V0s and the Voron 2.4 are on Revo. I've got 2 other Revos sitting in a box because I was originally planning a stealth changer, which is why I have so many Revos around. And you guys know that I've got the Fatus, it's the ultra high flow 2F in the end of 5 ready for when we start pushing it more towards a Mercury style printer. Just checking, yeah, making sure the kids aren't awake yet. We've got a motion sensor which turns on a flag on our home automation platform if the motion sensor sees a kids move past the sensor, but there's nothing yet. Need to get a new ring for my Revo. It's not as easy to change without the silicon. Oh yeah, I found that you can damage the silicon quite easily on the Revos. I actually bought 2 or 3 packs of the silicon replacements. I've stopped long ago worrying about making sure I keep the color coding. Oh, and I've also got a whole pack of the springs. I stopped worrying about the color coding a long time ago. I just write in permanent pen on the ring what size nozzle it's actually got in it. So yeah, we are currently sitting at 1 hour and 40 minutes, and I'm dragging this out rather than giving you good content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, time slot works. I've managed to get a lot more viewers than we generally do all in one place, all at one time. And we've missed a couple of Aussies, unfortunately, due to the time zone change, but time change and time slot change. But it seems to be capturing a lot more. Go away, that's better. It seems to be that it does work for a lot of people. A lot of the regulars are able to get here. I promise that I will fix up a couple of the jank things that are going on and see if I can fix that chat script. And we will go from there. I'm going to quickly check chat, make sure there's nothing else been mentioned. No, I've covered everything in chat. So I have been Phil. I have been the Down Under Maker. This has been another jank stream brought to you by me. And hopefully you will rejoin me next week and we will get started on the Delta Flyer. Thanks for joining me, guys. Time for me to hop on out of here. Bye.